I'd like to introduce Nancy from the United States who has multiple sclerosis. Welcome, Nancy.
Good morning, Linda.
I hope it's not too early for you. I didn't think of that. Anyway.
I'm an early riser.
Oh, good. Well, you did email me first, so that's not too bad. So what were the very first symptoms that you had of MS?
I had severe vertigo. And in fact, I was working, and the vertigo became so bad that I just literally dropped to the floor and couldn't get up again. And I suffered that vertigo for like 3 months, 3 months solid. And they took me to the ER, and they told me I had an inner ear infection. And being in the medical field, I said, no, I don't. I have MS. But that was my first clue, was the vertigo. But something just told me at that exact time that I did have MS, and I had to argue with them.
So what happened after the vertigo?
Well, I was literally bedridden after that for approximately 3 months. I was undiagnosed, and so then finally I found a neurologist that did diagnose me as having MS. And of course, he at that time put me on Copaxone, and it did nothing. My health just steadily declined, and although the vertigo after 3 months did start to subside, I think then the fatigue set in, and the fatigue was, I think, my biggest enemy.
So at that point, were you diagnosed?
Pardon?
So once, when you had the vertigo, is that when the MS was diagnosed, at the end of the vertigo?
Yes, but it took approximately 3 months to get diagnosed properly.
Yeah.
And I had to go away to a specialist to get that diagnosis. But I knew in my heart what it was because I've been in the medical field a long time.
Yes. And how did it affect you, being diagnosed, or even suspecting that that's what it was?
Well, I also had the optic neuritis. My skin burned so badly that when I slept, I could only sleep on the bed from my waist up. And it actually hurt to have clothes on. To this day, I still have to wear my socks inside out because, of my skin burns. But it has gotten much better since I began the LDN.
So what other symptoms did you have before you started LDN?
I think it's just mostly the optic neuritis, the fatigue, and the vertigo.
And your bladder was fine, yes?
Pardon?
Was your bladder okay?
Well, yeah. It wasn't any worse than it usually is. I think being a female, and after bearing children, we do have bladder problems, and so that wasn't something that I really noticed.
Okay.
Because I always went a lot, so I just thought that was normal for me.
So psychologically, did it affect you knowing that you'd got MS?
Well, absolutely, because I was very active. Had a job. I worked in the operating room. I was very active in the community. I worked with veterans. I was the mayor of my town, and so yeah, it took a while, and especially when I needed to leave my job because I loved my job, and all of a sudden at 1 minute I was everything, and then I was nothing because I was homebound. So it had a severe psychological effect on me.
So how did you hear about LDN?
Well, I had tried everything. I tried Copaxone, Betaserone, Rebif, and Avonex, and none of them worked. And the side effects actually made me more ill than the MS did. And so I told my neurologist that I was done taking anything, and he kind of agreed with me that, yeah, it's not working, and besides that, these drugs aren't really made for progressive forms of MS, so he was okay with me stopping that. And within about 3 months, I saw LDN on the internet. I'm not even sure where I saw it, but I saw it, and it took me a long time to make the decision. I didn't make it lightly. I did a lot of research. I, of course, went to the LDN.org website and read a lot of testimonials before I made that decision. And once I made the decision, it was no looking back.
How easy was it for you to get a prescription?
The first time I asked my neurologist for it, he gave me an absolute no, but that was while I was still on Rebif. And I had forgotten that I had even learned about LDN previous to me getting off the regular MS drugs. And then it was like new to me again when I did research after I was off the MS drugs. And I asked him the second time, and he felt, well, there's nothing to lose. He did not believe in it and didn't think it was going to help, but, you know, he wasn't against it.
Mm-hmm.
So it took me twice in asking him, and it took me to be totally off of anything else before he agreed to it.
Okay. So were you able to fill your prescription easily?
Yes, I went to Ermat's in New York.
Okay. So what did you notice? Did you have any initial side effects?
Pardon?
Did you have any initial side effects when you started?
I had absolutely no side effects whatsoever, and to this day I have no side effects, and usually I'm very sensitive to medication. I usually take about a fourth of a dose what anyone else would take.
Mm-hmm. So what did you notice initially when you started?
LDN worked for me within 8 hours. I took it. Yeah, I was so anxious and so excited. It was like the day that the LDN came, I couldn't wait to go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
The mailman came in the morning, and I just couldn't wait to go to bed that night. I was like waited for it all day, and so I took it before I went to bed. And at that time, I was bedbound. I couldn't get out of bed by myself. My husband even took me to the bathroom. And I was still suffering the effects of vertigo. So when I did try to walk, it was like one step forward, two steps sideways.
Mm-hmm.
And when I woke up the next morning, I got out of bed by myself. I mean, and it wasn't even, it was effortless. I just literally got out of bed. So it was like an 8-hour miracle for me.
Wow, it's amazing. So what happened to all your other symptoms?
The vertigo, you know, for the vertigo to leave, it probably took a matter of 2 or 3 days. The optic neuritis, it helped me. It took a little while for it to help the optic neuritis, maybe about 3 months. That burning sensation on my skin, well, that probably took maybe 2 or 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm. So how would you say your life is now?
My quality of life has increased tenfold. You know, I now do yard work. I cut grass. I do not need any assistance whatsoever to do anything. So absolutely, and my grandchildren just marvel at how well I am. They just, you know, even though it's been 4 years since I've been on LDN, they still remember what I was like back then, and they still talk about it.
So what would you say to other people who are contemplating trying LDN?
Well, I think that I would say research it first. Make sure it's the right decision for you. Um, I know for some people it isn't, or they don't believe it is. I believe differently.
Mhm.
And, it's at the low dose that we're giving. There's nothing to lose by going on LDN or by trying it. You have absolutely nothing to lose.
Mhm.
To me, it's like taking a baby aspirin, and that's how I explain it to other people. It's like you take a baby aspirin for your heart, you take a baby Naltrexone for, MS. That's the same. To me,
Mhm.
I equate the two.
Yes. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I would like to add a few things. That I have a few friends in the Gulf War community
Mhm.
that are suffering from unexplained autoimmune illnesses, and I have talked to many of them, and quite a few of them have tried LDN, and they are doing really well on it. And remember that their illness has not been diagnosed, but yet they're doing excellent on the LDN. And just recently, there is a study on LDN for Gulf War illness. I don't have the details